Hey everyone, welcome back for another episode, this time covering the animal classification of amphibians. Amphibians are the oldest of all land vertebrates, with the first recorded group of amphibians dating back to 370 million years ago, evolving from fish that had already developed lungs to survive in tidal pools where the water would recede. All of the animal classifications covered so far have evolved from amphibians. There are many traits that make amphibians unique among the animal kingdom. First off, amphibians have smooth, permeable skin. As well as having lungs, amphibians can breathe straight through their skin, even underwater. Some species have lost their lungs altogether and breathe solely through their skin. Additionally, many species are able to secrete toxins from their skin, which protects them from getting eaten by predators. Like reptiles, they are cold-blooded. As covered before, this means they cannot live in colder climates. Since they can breathe underwater, amphibians native to regions with cold winters such as here in the East Coast can hibernate at the bottom of ponds. Amphibians have soft eggs that they lay in the water similar to fish. One of the most unique features of amphibians is their complex life cycle. They first spawn as fully aquatic tadpoles, then they grow in size and grow limbs. Frogs lose their tails while they reach full maturity, while salamanders do not. In adulthood, most amphibians are fully amphibious, meaning they can breathe on land and in water. Some species like toads are not fully amphibious, but can still hold their breath underwater for several hours. Due to their complex life cycle and permeable skin, amphibians are very susceptible to changes in their environment. This makes them ecological indicators, which means scientists can track the overall health of an ecosystem by studying amphibian populations. There are around 8,000 species of amphibians, but only 3 orders, being frogs, salamanders, and Caecilians. Frogs make up around 90% of all amphibian species. They can be found all over the planet, mostly in wet areas like lakes and ponds, as well as rainforests. Frogs have powerful back legs which they use for swimming and leaping. Frogs resting on the water's edge can usually escape danger by swiftly jumping into the water. Like most amphibians, they are carnivores, mostly feeding on insects, worms, slugs, and snails. Some larger species eat rodents, small fish, and other frogs. Frogs also have an extendable tongue that they use to catch fast-moving prey such as flies. They swallow prey whole, so they can only prey on animals smaller than themselves. Some examples of frogs are true frogs, tree frogs, bullfrogs, painted frogs, glass frogs, poison dart frogs, shovel-nosed frogs, common toads, fire-bellied toads, and saddleback toads. The next order of amphibians are salamanders. They look like a cross between a frog and a lizard, as they keep their tails in adulthood. They live mostly in the northern hemisphere in similar wet environments as frogs. Salamanders can regrow lost limbs. Scientific research is currently underway to see if salamanders' regenerative ability can be applied to human medical applications. Some species are entirely aquatic, while others are entirely terrestrial after reaching adulthood. They have a similar diet to frogs, feeding on insects and other invertebrates. Some examples of salamanders are mole salamanders, torrent salamanders, lungless salamanders, giant salamanders, olms, sirens, and axolotls. The last order are Sicilians, not to be confused with people native to the Italian island of Sicily. They are limbless like snakes and amphibians covered in the last episode. Due to their smooth skin and segmented body, they look very similar to earthworms, except they have a head and a backbone. They are found exclusively in rainforests, mostly in the Amazon rainforest and in Southeast Asia. They live under the forest leaf litter, foraging for worms to eat. They grow in size from the size of a worm to around 5 feet long. As for seeing amphibians in Philadelphia, you're not likely to see any in urban areas, but they're very common sight in the right places. Concourse Lake and Centennial Lake are both great places in Fairmount Park to spot frogs near the water's edge. If you go hiking, toads and salamanders can usually be spotted on trails. If you see an amphibian and catch it, remember that they have permeable skin and you could harm the animal if you have soap, hand sanitizer, or any other chemicals on your hands. Now that all the terrestrial vertebrates have been covered, that leaves fish to be the next on the agenda. I hope you learned something new about amphibians. Take care, and thanks for tuning in.